sober, busy living sober, busy living sober. Good morning. I have today, okay, first off, if you're here for the first time, welcome. I hope you like the show. And if you're back, good to see ya. Glad you're here. Hope you find something you like today. I hope you hear something that helps you get through another day of this crazy thing that we call life. And I'm really excited because not only is my guest, which is episode 411, by the way, if you're listening, my guest is not only my friend, but she's my neighbor. And I met Jocelyn Shermel when I moved into this house in, I think I met you in April of last year of 2023. And she was popping down the street, just happy, walking with her husband, I think. And they had just moved into the neighborhood as well. And they're also moved to Florida from Boston, from the Northeast, and came down here and made that huge leap to not the retirement state, but I like to say adult. I think it's like adult day camp where we live because it's so fun. But I met Jocelyn and she's so fascinating. Her story's amazing. And what she's doing today is amazing. And I just want to say, welcome to my show.
Hi, thank you for having me on. This is exciting. Yes,
It's
love
really
to share.
so, as you guys can all hear, she has an accent because she's not actually really from Boston. She doesn't say she's going to park the car like everybody from Boston. She sounds rather English, and she's actually South African. So, tell us where you are from, what your journey's been like so far.
So I grew up in South Africa during the apartheid era, which was very tough, actually. So what happened was at the age of 21, I got married, and my husband and I left and went to live in London for a year. He was a dentist. And we had the best time, obviously, 21, messing around there. And then he decided he wanted to go back to South Africa and be, as he calls it, a big fish in a small pond. So he opened up a dental practice, and we had our first child, Tasha, who happened to be a blind child. And it was very difficult in South Africa because there are no resources for blind children. If you wanted her to get schooling, she'd have to be in a boarding school hundreds of miles away. So luckily, he decided that he wanted to move back to America, and we got a green card, which was very, very fortunate. And we moved back, and my daughter Tasha got the schooling that she needed, and I did a master's in psychology, and we've lived in Boston for 40 years. So when he was about 46, he got leukemia and he passed away. It was very, very tragic, actually. I had a 12-year-old daughter and my 16-year-old at the time. And it came out of nowhere. It was one of those things in life that happens that you never really prepared for, obviously. I'll back up a minute if you wanted to hear. I forgot sort of another piece of history, which was that I had breast cancer at 39. I kind of glossed over that, which is pretty cool. And he died 5 years later. Thank goodness I was okay. They caught it. They did what they had to do. So I went through a lot of loss. 3 months after my husband died, my father died in South Africa. And I had to rush back. I had been visiting my dad. And a month later, no, it was a week later, he got a pancreatitis and he died. So I got back on the plane and went back to South Africa. Kind of when I look back at everything, you know, sometimes people would say, oh, you've had such bad luck. And I've never, ever thought of myself as somebody who has bad luck. I don't think of my life as bad luck or good luck. I think of things that just happened. And fortunately, I'm the kind of person who, as you saw, I just kind of skimmed over the fact I had breast cancer at 39. I look back and I feel like I did what had to happen in the moment. And so all through that time, if I go back to the things that were also happening, I had worked at the School for the Blind, the Perkins School for the Blind, as a social worker. I then became an artist and started teaching kids. And actually, going through breast cancer, one of the highlights was that I would put on my wig after chemo and go and teach my class, little kids in all different schools in the afternoons. And I was totally present and loved every minute of playing. To me, it was playing with them. So they and me together were in that moment, and it was so totally precious. Through the years, I carried on teaching. I taught adults art, decorative painting. I taught myself how to be a decorative painter. And then had the same group of women for 4 years. And after year 2, I said to them, I don't think I've got anything left to teach you. And they were like, we're not going anywhere. And I think I used a lot of my clinician skills as a therapist. I wouldn't say I did art therapy, but they were so comfortable in the group, going through their lives, raising their children together, coming every week, painting, talking. And I love that environment. So fast forward, I then lost my husband, and my cousin who lives in Israel said, why don't you come and learn the clothing business? I go to Europe every 3 times a year and I sell clothes out of my home. Why don't you do that in Boston? I thought, oh my gosh, there's nothing to lose here, get on a plane and go to Italy, sure, Paris. So that's what I did for the next 15 years. I had a private client store out of my house. I used to go and do fabulous shopping and built up a huge clientele. And on the side, I decided to make jewelry. Always loved jewelry, and started selling it to my clients who came to me. And then eventually that business grew into a big wholesale business. And I did shows and sold my jewelry to stores around America. So as you can see, I'm somebody that loves reinventing herself, loves going with artistic flow. And one of my biggest things that I love is connecting to people. So whether it's through art, fashion, jewelry, it's partially about the art, but it's very much about the connection and helping other people to feel like they've surprised themselves, that there's something that they've learned about themselves through the interaction or through maybe pushing themselves to be more fashion forward. Sometimes I'd like nudge people when I'd be selling clothes. Yeah, I think you could try that really frilly dress. I know you're not a frilly dress person. Let's give it a shot. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. I really love myself. I feel more sexy and youthful in this. And it was just a lovely time of my life to be able to do that. So that's up to the present. That's up to me leaving Boston and coming to Florida.
Well, I want to ask you a couple things. For one, thank you for telling us all those things. And there were thoughts that were coming through. And of course, I always like to write things down. And when you got the breast cancer, you didn't go down that rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. This is horrible. This is horrible. This is horrible. When David got sick, that's her husband, when he got sick, you didn't go and self-medicate, did you?
No, and I come from a very addicted family. So this is interesting that you bring that up. My father was a gambler. I mean, he built up a really huge business and then he retired early and then he bought many horses and he gambled and he lost most of his money. My mom was a severely depressed person and was addicted to Valium. In those days, in the 50s, that was quite common. And my brother at 15 became an alcoholic, and he and I were very close growing up, but he became a drug and alcohol addict for the next 30 years. He was a doctor. He did graduate and become a doctor, and then he let that go. And only in the last 10 years, he's become sober and rebuilt his life miraculously. And I was there to support him all the way through. So yes, by the grace of God, he owns his own practice now. He bought a house. He had to catch up. All his fellow doctors, had accumulated all their wealth. And in his 60s, he started again and he's done amazing. So yes, I have had that addiction around me. And I don't think that that was an option. I did have a bad relationship after my husband died. I will say that. And I've forgiven myself for that because I feel like, wow, I could have just not gotten out of bed. So, yeah. And I had two girls to take care of and look after and shepherd into adulthood and go through the college thing. And I feel very grateful that I'm a positive person internally. I'm optimistic.
And so thinking of like even going and getting something to drink or to take a pill because you'd watched your mom taking the pills and your brother taking the drink and your dad going and doing like some stuff to fill our holes inside of our souls because we've lost so much. I mean, I had a friend who reached out to me today. Actually, I reached out to her just to see how she was doing it. And her daughter lost a child and, she's in this darkness. And we get in these dark times and we can't seem to find our way, like we're in this, like swimming in this darkness. So what do you say to somebody who's out there? Because it sounds like coming down the pike you had a lot of like darkness thrown at you, and instead of you kept swimming through it. How'd you do that? What was a hope or a tip that you could tell someone that's out there that's feeling like they're getting swallowed up by darkness?
I'd probably say that it's not that you did something. These are challenges that happen around you, and that we all have a wealth, an inner reserve that we don't even know. We've forgotten that we have. Actually, now that you bring that up, it's probably a good time to tell you about what I am doing now, because this is what I probably tapped into in myself. So I do something called joy readings, and they are when I sit with a person for an hour and we have a conversation and we talk about all the times in their life that brought them joy, however insignificant. I'll give you a great example. So when I was little, I had a very tough childhood. My parents eventually got divorced. And I remember during dusk at around 6 o'clock when the sun was just setting, we had a nice garden in South Africa, very similar climate to Florida. And I would run around the garden pretending to be a fairy. And I was a ballet dancer, and I would run around and do ballet and do big leaps and run through the apricot tree and the almond tree and the fig tree. And we had all these fruit trees and just swirl around. And in that moment, I remember saying, all is good with the world. And I think that when I sit with people and I do a joy reading, I look for those moments that they've had in their life that they have forgotten. because those are the moments that you draw on that actually allow you to feel that you're okay. It's okay. It's temporary. Whatever is happening is not permanent. You still have that moment. So I think that we all have forgotten the goodness, the times that we've connected with other people as well. Often my best friend who would run through the garden with me, she was from Belgium. To this day, I still look for her on Facebook because she was only there for a year and then she went back to Belgium. But I had that connection with another beautiful soul, and she's gone. And I'm just grateful I had that. So I think that that's what I do now. And then I turn that hour of conversation into a visual mandala. We pull some symbols, animals that you love, flowers, the moment in your life, whether it was a holiday home that just brought you joy. It was the one time in your life when you went on holiday for a week, a year, that you felt good. I put that into the mandala. And then when you are going through darkness, you can visually look at your essence and say, there I am. I'm remembering who I am. I'm remembering that inside times when I thought were so dreadful, there was a spark of something there that I've forgotten. And then we look for those.
Did you ever have a grandmother that was around you that would tell you like everything in the world is going to be beautiful? Did you have somebody in your life when you were little as well that gave
I
you
did.
positivity?
I did. I had two grandmothers. I had one grandmother who was my fashion side, who was a Russian grandmother and who was superbly well dressed all the time. Her earrings matched her bag, which matched her shoes. And she would take me into a closet and show me all the beautiful things. So I loved that. It was like going into the candy store, and she was always so excited to show me, look how this yellow bag matches those exact yellow earrings. You know, she was sort of like that in those days. So she was somebody just who loved me unconditionally. My Israeli grandmother, because my father was from Israel, didn't speak very good English, but she was very spiritual.
Mhm.
And I've only learned this now recently, that when she blessed me, and she would put blessings, she would put her hands around my face and offer me a blessing for the day, a blessing to be well, a blessing for abundance. She would speak in Hebrew or Arabic because she knew both languages. And I felt at the time just so loved and given to, like she just emanated light around her. And I found out from my cousins recently the blessings that she was always giving to all of us. So that was really cool.
That is so amazing because you think about it. So somebody else could have the same experience that you had, the trauma, but you keep reinventing yourself. I mean, we've heard you say that you went to school to be a therapist, for lack of a better word, and then you learned how to be. You went out and you taught painting, and then the fashion came, and then the jewelry came, and now the joy reading has come. And all these gifts, instead of like, so many people dream of things, right? Like it's out there, I'm going to go and I'm going to do that, or I'm going to start this, or I'm going to start that. And it never comes to fruition. But do you not have any fear of failing? Or how do you take the courage to do this besides being a warrior woman that I think that you are? I mean, she's amazing and her aura is amazing to be around. But where do you think that comes from? That ability to say, I don't care what's going to happen. I'm just going to do it anyway.
It that's That's so interesting because as you said that, my father's words popped into my head. He said this to me my whole life. Don't wonder what to do. Do it and wonder how you did it.
Wow.
And I think that I probably took that seriously. I taught myself how to be a decorative painter. I taught myself how to make jewelry. I mean, I do come from creative family. My mom was a fine painter. Doesn't matter. I know what you're saying. It's about giving it a try. I think the fantasy of like, I have to be the perfect, I have to be successful, I have to be that is really helps people to stop themselves in their track. They scare themselves. Let's try not to scare ourselves because that really does like put a halt on you. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? You'll have a nice hobby. You'll have an extra hobby.
It's
Um,
been, it is, it's amazing because I see you and then I have other friends that have lost people and they're constantly living in that past story, that person that's passed on. They just keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. And now I'm just going to give a shout out to she's remarried now and she's got a new husband and she has this life she keeps evolving and evolving and evolving. And I love that. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Jocelyn on actually, it was Monday. We sat, wasn't it Monday or was it Tuesday?
yes.
I think it was Monday. I can't even remember what day it is anymore. But anyway, we sat down together and we did a joy reading. We had been talking about it for a long time, but I never, because we both like to talk and we both have ADHD and we get together and it becomes like we talk about everything. Suddenly we were like, stay focused, stay focused. And she kept me focused. And we did sit down and we talked about these memories that I've had in my life where there was joy. And when I was little, and I'm just going to give everybody out there just a little, a couple little things. So we sat down and we talked about what I did when I was little and my favorite movie, which was always The Sound of Music. And The Hills Are Alive. I just always, that's just where, I mean, we sing the songs still to this day in my house with my kids. And I think about that movie and it did bring so much joy. And I think that because life gets so lifey right now, there's so much, I don't know, it's since the pandemic maybe. And I just wrote about it actually in one of my newsletters. It's like since COVID, all these people have changed and it's like life was before COVID and now and they're living in this thing of like, oh, we had to go through this and we had to go through that and life now since COVID has been I can't get dressed anymore. I just can't put on makeup. There's no joy. And then they watch the news all day or they get on social media, which is like, to me, like the devil's workshop, right? It puts all this stuff on you that you're like comparing, comparing, comparing. And it's like you never compared your life to somebody else's. It's like, oh, look how lucky they are. They have a husband. They didn't have breast cancer. They didn't have this. They didn't have that. You just looked at it as like, these are the gifts I've received. Now let's use those gifts to help others.
Yeah, I think we've all been through the dark night of the soul. We really have. They are our trials. It's not all roses, for sure. The understanding that things are temporary and that we have the wherewithal, if we want to, if we I know that word choice is a tough word because there are definitely times when I was going through that very bad relationship after my husband died, which was one of my greatest teachers. And people would say to me, "Oh my goodness, how did you do that?" And I said, "Because I was vulnerable, super vulnerable. I'd been married since the age of 21, and I'm now 43. I was super vulnerable, and I forgive myself and it taught me a lot. And I managed to get out of it after 8 years. Okay. The biggest thing was that I forgave myself. I think that um, denigrating yourself constantly keeps you in that cycle and keeps you limited and keeps you dark. We've all made mistakes. The biggest thing you can say is, oh boy, did I make a mistake there? What did I learn from that mistake? Geez, that was a really big mistake. I'm not doing that again. From when we were very little and we touch a hot plate. Oh, I'm not doing that again. So being conscious that I'm going to make use of that mistake for myself. I certainly don't want to do it again, so I'm going to use it so that I don't do it. So I think that when you said something about the sound of, you said the hills are alive. So what I would say to that is just you resonating with that sentence, the hills are alive, is that that's in you. You resonate with that. You want the hills to be alive with the sound of music, with dancing, with expansion, with beauty. And that's probably, life came along and stuff happens and we forget that. We forget deep in our soul, the hills are alive. We want to live in that world. So I think it's just remembering. We get a lot of stuff dumped on top of us, lots of layers dumped. So we need like an excavator to come and help us remember.
I love that. And then we come up with the symbols. We came up, so the hills were alive. I also have always loved, elephants. They're my like favorite. They remember things, they mate for life, even though I haven't mated with my first husband for life, I'm with my second. And then flowers and all these things that rainbows and butterflies, that's just what I love. But butterflies, all those things as a little girl, I still love as a grown woman. And Jocelyn then takes these and makes a mandala, right? Am I saying it correctly? And I will put a picture in the description. Jocelyn sent me one, and it will be in the description that you'll find if you go to my website, elizabethchance.com, and you'll see this in the description that there's a picture of a mandala of what she has taken from this joy reading. And then you can frame it on your wall and look at it. And that will, again, will bring you back to those times of happiness and light rather than dark and sad.
Yes, happiness and light, and also remembering yourself. So in a dark moment, I'll remember that girl who was 7 years old, who was running around in the garden at dusk. I'll remember her. I'll go, oh, there she is. Let me connect back to her. The day when you're devaluing yourself and you're not feeling good about yourself, and why did I do this? And why did I say that? There's that girl. She's there. Connect back to her. The one that runs free, the one that's, I'll give you another example of something I did with somebody in a joy reading of what happened, which was this girl was 7 years old, and she tells me the story of how she was the youngest of four sisters, and she had said to her father, I want a boat like my older sister for Christmas. And she sat down around the tree and everyone got presents except her. And her heart was sinking. And then her father said, come outside. And he showed her this big model sailboat that she could, I think, remote control. And she just felt so amazing that she wasn't left out and that she got that boat. And she told me this story. And she said, because that was one of my few memories of a very unhappy childhood. And I said, I love that story because you asked for something and you received it. That's foundational, that in your life, you have the trust that when you want something, you will get it. He modeled that for you. And she went on to win big sailboat races. She went on to compete. And she didn't think there was anything really significant in that story. It was just sort of a memory. But when she saw it, she remembered it because it was significant, but she didn't know how significant it was. And the significance is that she asked for something and she got it. How many times do people not get what they asked for? But we unravel and we will find in that rubble, and we will find under a heap, we'll find some gems. There are always gems. And you can change your narrative about yourself when you find those gems. If you want, I can hold up this one of these mandalas, and so that I don't know if your viewers can actually see it. It's sort of
It's beautiful. It has dolphins, it has flowers, it has hummingbirds, it has
so
hands.
the middle core is healing hands, and the woman who I did this for is a massage therapist, and she wanted that in her middle to remind her of herself. And then all the other symbols have tremendous meaning for her and will bring her joy every time she looks at it, just like you would with elephants and your butterfly.
Now tell me this, would if somebody's out there and wants to do a joy reading, are you able to do it virtually?
Yes, that's how I do it.
Okay.
We do it virtually. Just have a great, easy conversation.
I love that. I love that. Well, you guys, thank you so much, Jocelyn, for coming on. And if you want to reach Jocelyn, you'll have all of her links and everything will be in the description to go along with this. You can follow her. She's on Instagram, on Facebook. I have all of those. If you have any questions for her. And I want to just say thank you for everything because I really believe that if you've endured what you've endured in your life and you still have joy, is such an amazing gift to show others that you too don't have to do this and live. Yes, it's part of your story, but it isn't your story, right?
It isn't your story. And as Richard Rudd from the Gene Keys says, we all have genius in us. We all have genius. We just sometimes need help to uncover that genius. Sometimes people have tried to smash your genius or take it away from you. It's there.
It's amazing. I love that, you guys. So you're out there and you have to know that you have genius in you. You are not alone. You don't need to go down that dark rabbit hole. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much. I'm
thank
sending you
you
big
so
hugs.
much.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And if you're out there listening, please subscribe to my show. Please reach out to Jocelyn if you're interested in the joy reading. Any questions, you can always reach me at elizabeth@elizabethchance.com. Jocelyn's email will be on there as well as her website, everything. So until next time, everybody, keep getting busy, living sober. Bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.